Hi, and thank you for joining me for show number 49, the Sunday show, TargetedWest.com. My name is DJ Chris, your moderator, and I'm the man in the middle. I'm pretty much apolitical, but I am having a political guest on tonight, and I do like to talk politics, so that's a good thing. And her name is Shiloh Taylor, so she'll be talking in a moment. Of course, I'm not violent or spewing out violent hatred or vitriol. I'm just here to find out why I have these terrorist telepathy V2K people in my head, and that's the only reason I do this call. I'm in beautiful Lodi, California. It's 6 p.m. It's the 5th of March, 2023, and welcome to the call, Shiloh Taylor.
Thank you, DJ Chris. I'm glad to be here today.
Great. Shiloh Taylor is a former congressional staffer, entrepreneur, and a cannabis entrepreneur, and she has a blog, ShilohTaylor.com. Go ahead, Shiloh. How, may I ask the question I asked in the email, if I could ask you, how did you end up getting targeted?
I have been targeted politically, actually. I was a staff member for the U.S. House of Representatives for Ben Ray Lujan out of New Mexico, who's a now senator, for about 10 years. And I also was a trained campaign manager, a delegate, went through the whole very local politics, did stuff for the Democratic Party, and also into their inner workings. I was targeted in 2016 after, just with the Bernie campaign and Hillary campaign got ugly. I threw my hat in to be a campaign manager for Gary Johnson, who's also a cannabis advocate and the old governor of New Mexico at the time. I did not get the job, but it angered the Democratic Party, the DNC, the DCCC, which my ex-boss was a part of at the time. And unfortunately, I ended up on the non-investigative subjects terrorist list, which I believe all of us are on.
Yeah. Oh boy, I think I'm on it too after 21 years. So wow, so you were targeted, and then of course, you saw changes in your life because of it. Can you go ahead and go on?
It was pretty much immediate once I realized that I had, I was told that I was going to anger these people if I continued. I said, okay, and I did anyway. But it was pretty much an immediate change. It's not, I know a lot of people feel similar where they want everyone to feel like you're crazy, but that's the purposeful. But it was like a light switch turning on with immediate gang stalking, hacking, mimicking, all of that sort of thing. They did make death threats to me at the time, a little bit cloaked. There was, threats of that they were going to get the Attorney General after me for a cannabis. I applied for a nonprofit cannabis license, like a big license through the state was offering 12 of them up against a corrupt sheriff, actually. And the corrupt sheriff was the taker of one of those licenses. So this part of this does stem from some of the cannabis stuff going on and corrupt law enforcement involved in the cannabis industry. All the say no to drugs folks that were putting people in prison are now making a lot of money off of cannabis patients and people who need cannabis.
Like me?
And yes, exactly, who have a very much a medical need, and it's proven that it is good for them. And it's really difficult for me, this piece of it, that there are corrupt law enforcement people now in charge of dealing the marijuana that they were putting people in prison for and making money off of it.
It's amazing. They've never made it rescheduled it at the federal level, which gives them that power. And I too got started in my targeting by a corrupt sheriff in Santa Clara County. Go ahead.
Yes, there's a lot of enforcement. This whole the list and the gang stalking and that sort of thing coming from the government, and there's a lot of theories out there about what's being done, how it's being done. It's being done through military and law enforcement. It's being after 9/11, they're using these things. A lot of people know what fusion centers are. Anyone who doesn't know what a fusion center is, it's basically put in after 9/11, run by AT&T, which is basically gives in real time things that are going on with terrorists or terrorist organizations, which makes sense at the time if that was really going on. If we did have some actual terrorists that were going to blow something up, we would think law enforcement would need to have real-time information on it. Right. And unfortunately, it has turned into a retaliatory gang stalking list, and they are actually being paid to do these things. This is not, it's coming out of the military budget, it's coming out of contractors from Department of Energy, Department of Defense, and security contractors that are paid with their budgets through the United States NSA security guys.
And the Department of Justice, too.
Yes, Department of Justice is definitely involved. They contract them out through Department of Defense and Department of Energy.
Wow.
Under the security guys. And so, but either way, it's just it's not some of these theories that are out there. It really is the military-industrial complex has gotten us where we are.
I agree, and it's worldwide too. So I'm pretty sure that we're selling this technology to other countries, especially NATO countries, so they can use it on their people to keep political control and social dissent away.
I do also believe and have some evidence towards them giving out their technologies from if anyone's familiar with New Mexico, they have two of the government secret labs there, Sandia Labs and Los Alamos Labs. And Sandia Labs, at the time when I was a staff member, we were briefed on a new program where they were giving out technologies that the labs currently have to private companies. It's still up there. I went to check. It's up there. It's a program that is in existence. Unfortunately, some of these technologies that are being passed on to corporate entities, such as oil and gas, who have they have the legal ability at this point to be able to target people for real. Donziger, I believe is his name, if you look him up, but he was actually targeted by an oil and gas company, Chevron. And so they are passing on these technologies to large corporations, allowing them also to get into the targeting game, which is my personal belief why this has exponentially grown over the past 6 years.
I agree with that. Yeah, I didn't know it was that expanded. That is insane. Continue.
I guess the continued with the corporate entity type of things, what they're doing is they're also mixing in, of course, the Department of Defense. Palantir, if you're familiar with that company, was their technology is the one that they claimed was what caught Osama bin Laden. And it's basically they use all of the information that you have in your metadata, any information you've ever had from your phone, from all of your devices, everything you've ever given about yourself, and they create a profile of you. And that is how they are able to profile and have a pretty good idea, as in like game theory, about what decision you would make if put into this position. They also use the voice to skull to egg that on, to, poke at your insecurities. Everybody's torture is different. After they've done this profile on you, they also have all of your friends and family and any connections you've ever had. They know which ones will believe you, which ones will not. They try to isolate you from those who will believe you. I don't know if, all other targeted people are in the same position where I'm estranged from many people in my family due to this.
Yeah, everybody's in that same boat. It happens. Yes, it's part of the isolation program to make the program more strong. And you're right, it is game theory.
Yes, they know what you're going to do. if presented with a certain situation.
Predictive policing, and of course, Palantir has a program for the Defense Department that's a different name, but it uses the same technology, but in the war field. We're in a war with them, so they use it on us.
Yes, exactly. And they are, this allows them, the legal way they're getting around it, obviously, are these things that we talked about earlier, some of the Patriot Act verbiage, the FISA from 78, Section 703, and Section 702, which are actually coming up for extension. This is where I wanted to not necessarily get into politics, but get into, to change the rules, we have to band together as TIs, and you have to individually go to your reps at this point and express. Not that it's going to do any good. If they're going to extend it, they're going to extend it. However, working in the U.S. House, they do pay attention to when the phone calls increase. Like, that's all data to them. Like, it seems like it doesn't work, but it does, because you have to log every phone call that you get. What did they call about? What does they want? Are they for or against this issue? So if you have a decent congressman or a decent senator, which there's some out there, they take into account these phone calls. They want to know what people think about these things. They care about their constituents. Now, that's not all of them. A lot of them are bought and paid for, and we all know that. But there are some good ones out there, and they're the ones that we need to hit up. And because these are the things that, this is the legal way they're getting around these things. It's not, if we remain apathetic and we feel like it's hopeless and lost, that's what they want. That's what they're trying to do, because most TIs are not easily controlled. And that's why you're on this list. And so to stop this is to change the rules, change the laws. The laws are written. And it's very difficult, of course, when you are targeted, and especially when you're having an attack, to be worrying about something other than like the physical attack that you're going through. It's hard to do that.
Yeah, that's true. By the way, everyone, we're interviewing Shiloh Taylor. She's a former congressional staffer, and we're talking right now. You can ask questions at the end of the interview, but we're going to go and continue. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sure. I believe I guess the main focus of what I was hoping to discuss with everyone was, how do we effectively stop this? And that's also with not understanding fully what the technologies that they have and all of the details, but how do we legally stop this? And so I believe that we have to change the rules. The rules are written. They're going around the rules. I know that it's been, and the light needs to be shown on it as well. However, we have to get this into court in some way, shape, or form. These rules have to be changed. And so focusing on the things that we know are creating this, the budget ever increasing, it starts and stops with your reps. I personally am creating I believe getting rid of the Electoral College would make a big difference in being able to stop them from anointing people. Like nobody voted those people in there. They were anointed. They knew they were going to get placed in there. The party places them in there in the primary and I did it. I was a delegate. Like, nobody gets to vote for the primary, like in New Mexico, for instance, unless you're a delegate. So these are hand-picked people before they ever get to the primary. For even then, if you're a party affiliated, you would get to vote. But it's already been decided before the primary, is what people don't understand a lot of the time. So to shake up the system, using remote workers to go into other localities and shake up the system and get rid of these people that need to they're part of the system at this point. I think a lot of people start out good and they end up bought and paid for.
Gotcha. So our job is, all my listeners and everyone on the call, is to find out who your representatives are and make up a letter. You can do it collectively and get them out to these people. Shiloh is right. Continue.
Yes, making noise matters. It doesn't, and again, even if it's like a lot of us come from places where we don't like our reps, and you can't get rid of them with your vote, call them anyway. And if you don't, you don't want to deal with the person on the phone, write letters. Those definitely get logged. They are supposed to be answering you if you're in their constituency. You contact your rep, they are supposed to write you back, at least to acknowledge the fact that they received your letter. I do think that it's going to take a shakeup of the system. There's too many people in there, obviously, that have been in there for too long. A lot of them don't even have the mental capacity. Like, there are, I believe, 8 people on Alzheimer's drugs at this point in the Senate, which is too bad because that's not. We all learned from Reagan. You just can't do the job when you have Alzheimer's. Unfortunately, it's a very degenerative of many things, many functions. It's not when you need to run the country.
My dad had it. It was a long goodbye.
It's really terrible. It's a very awful, for many reasons. But, the most obvious is just forgetting things such as like how to eat, how to do, like major functions of your body are forgotten. And so anyway, it's not the best time to be running the country.
Yeah, it's Namenda and Aricept are the two meds for dementia, Alzheimer's. I got my dad on. It helped him.
And that's been a while since he's...
Yeah, he passed in 2017, but he started showing dementia in the late 99, 98. I think I got somebody interfering here. I don't think that's you. Could everybody put yourself on mute, please? Sorry about that, Shiloh. So the best thing to do is contact your representative, because we need to get into some action here and start doing something, because sitting around and preaching to the choir isn't going to do it. Do you agree? So it is time to unite. You said let's organize. So let's organize. Everybody finding out who the reps are and getting on this during the week. Write a letter, write an email, and send it to that person, and do it. Don't forget. If you're watching this video on YouTube, BitChute, or archive.org, do the same thing. Take a moment out, please. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Shiloh.
And going further on a personal level, because that's sort of as a collective. We need to do that as a collective. But as an individual, also, we need to be putting together our stories as if it's a lawsuit, as if it's a case. Make sure you have all of your information in a row about the medical conditions that have come from this. Your proof, whatever your proof is, your word is your proof. Your neighbor seeing weird things, friends that believe you, get their information, get them in your story. Get as much proof as you can on this, and then also going further with there are some lawsuits that are coming out. The ACLU has put something in against the FBI recently. Then obviously Targeted Justice has done something, which this is a start. In Targeted Justice's information, there is letters to FOIA, the FBI, the CIA, and the Department of Justice. Find out how you got on this list. Have them give you all of the information. And just going to piggyback off that organization, because I think that they've come out with some good legal information that if even, obviously we're not the people that are on this lawsuit, but get ready for your own, because it's coming. Our time is coming. And as an individual, you still have to be responsible for your own evidence and your own information. And if we all come united together with our individual stories that are all the same, and we're all on this list, this eventually is going to break that down. All it takes is one of these lawsuits to break through and make sure this list is deemed unconstitutional, because there is no due process. It's why can't I come out with it? Because my throat chakras. the punishment, undue punishment for this, due process. How many illegal search and seizure? Like everything in our Constitution, it goes against. All of our rights are being violated. And
yeah, I agree. And I understand the chakras, by the way. Go ahead.
So, yes, the illegal search and seizure and all of the constitutional things that are being violated, especially the torture part of this, which is the punishment for what have we done? We had a lifestyle they didn't like. I'm kind of mouthy and I was giving up secrets they didn't want people to know and telling people things about the government that you may have already known, but hearing it from, like, this is how they do it. And so I had some information before Cambridge Analytica came out. I was told by one of the leadership that they had basically bought and paid for Google, Facebook, all of the major social medias at that point to focus on some of their messaging and mind control, essentially. So as much as we all hate politics, they're both buying into these things that are mind control, essentially, to make you act in a way, to vote for whoever, to not vote for whoever, to become apathetic. It's all by design.
I agree. To control the masses and control everything, you can control the world and your people. You push dissent down. You nudge people into making decisions through NLP, especially. The NLP is what they like using a lot.
What does that stand for?
Neuro-linguistic programming. They twist the words around to their advantage.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
they do attack the chakras, by the way, not to go off topic, but that's what they do, is to keep you from talking. That happens a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely, the chakras play a part in this. I'm kind of not into the religious piece of it, but the spiritual piece of this and energy and the manipulation of energy that we can do with our own brains and thoughts is not deniable. Like, these things help. Meditation, doing things where when you are being attacked, the pain that comes from that, focusing on that, surrounding yourself with white light, surrounding yourself doing it's the Kundalini where it circles your spine. Those type of things work, protections that energy, protecting yourself with energy. It's not about a religion at this point. They're using energy. Use what energy we have already to help yourself.
I do that. I ground a lot, and I use humming when my vagus nerve is upset and my little thing in my throat wiggles. So I know to hum, and if you hum or go om and meditate, it goes away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. These ancient tools work. They work. And for me, when I originally was targeted, I didn't know what was going on. I mean, I knew that they had hacked. I knew that they were gang stalking me, but I didn't know the full extent of why I had a cancer scare and I had nonstop headaches for 2-3 years, continuous. These physical attacks, I didn't know what they were. It took me a while to figure out that piece of it because it just seems, this is where people are like, well, you lost me when you started on that, but it's not.
Right. Can we do a quick, excuse me a moment, let me mute everybody. Go ahead and hit *6 again, Shiloh, after this. Hold on, please. Okay, go ahead, then, Shiloh, and hit *6, and you can continue. We just had a straggler with an open mic. Continue.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm targeted too, and I amazing what you're telling me. Absolutely incredible. I do think that we have the energy and the power to do this, and to collectively contact these people and tell them what's going on. Their constituents are upset. They need to know. The war machine is coming after the citizens, and they know that. They were warned about this before.
I think part of it, of us losing the control of, we don't have government employees anymore. Everyone is a contractor of a corporation outside of the government. So there's very few government employees. So all of these, and Snowden is a good example of him working for, a contractor.
Yeah, Booth Hamilton. Yeah, 70% of the government's contracted out now. Lockheed does most of it.
Yeah, it definitely, there are also with the labs, there's a lot of these, they're hidden, they're not quite as big as Raytheon and these large, Boeing and some of these other contractors. And they all have 4 letters in their name. And different, because at the time when I worked for the House, it was just part of, like, we would just go to events and different things with them, and I could never keep track of who was who because they're just 4 letters, IBTC or whatever it is, and I can't remember. So that's not
an actual changed example. And in the middle of it, they all changed their names, like Predpol changed it to Geolytica for predictive policing.
Exactly. So they hide behind these other corporations and they get the next contract with a different corporation. And so we've lost control of having actual government employees that are responsible for the government things that they're doing. And so we have corporations that are doing government things now. And so it's a very slippery slope at this point. It's easy to see how it's gotten this far. I do think some of the weapons that they have are so advanced that I know there's a lot of people with they're using nanotechnology and they're using chips and I don't deny any of that. I do know that I had a friend who worked for the Department of Defense for one of these contractors that was an engineer with a top secret clearance. I was told at least 10 years ago that he made laser guns, basically was the description that he gave to me about what he did, and said, here's what I can tell you is that we have a laser that can tell your blood alcohol level, and that they don't need to be by you. They can just point it at a laser. I assumed it was done through satellites, and they can tell what's going on with your inner workings of your body. So I am not under the belief that they need any nano or any of these injectables to be able to torture you.
I've never had an implant. Yeah, I suspect the laser is actually a maser, which is a microwave amplification of stimulated radiation maser, which is a laser, and that was before the laser, so that's probably what he was talking about, and I believe that's how they're doing it, but that's just my hypothesis at the moment. Continue.
And again, I'm doing some more research into some of this stuff. I'm hoping to get into touch with some other people that did work on some of these weapons. And I'm trying to form my own hypothesis on some of these things. I do know that some of these, like Palantir and some of these other things, it's a profile, and they call it a profile. And it is, I believe, going to show up in the fusion centers is where the information for some of these things are. I do know with watching through social media sort of recently with TikTok and other different things that has different videos, they have content creators that do this, and they create content based on, for mimicry and different things that adds to the whole gang stalking of this, their abilities to be able to really either scare people or really realize how big this network is. And so some of the stuff over here, and I am in Los Angeles right now and in Hollywood, and have come across some of this stuff here with the entertainment groups that are also involved in the content creation using gang stalking as well. And so they are getting good enough to where they have teams put together, and they don't know necessarily what they're doing. They just receive something that tells them to create the content that says this, talks about these particular things, which happen to be what you just spoke about 3 hours ago on the phone with your mother or whoever it is, and try to pick out the things that will get your attention. If your birthday is, 3-3, you see a lot of 3-3s. There's certain things that will catch your eye. They know that by your profile, that you're an 1111 person, or you like dogs. You're going to catch on to seeing a certain type of dog. Whatever it is that is your flag, they create content around that at this point. And they work in teams. I've seen them laughing about it in the comments of different content and, congratulating them on how fire their content was and, talking about their teams. And so they've added a whole other level to this, which I think is upsetting to a lot of TIs, just that how many perps there are. And how do we decipher who is and who isn't without it becoming a pointing fingers at everyone? Everyone's a perp, everyone's a fed, I think most of us are just TIs.
I agree. I still to this day have never met a perp in the community, so.
I haven't either. I just do know, of course, obviously the FBI and the CIA and they do plant people in on purpose.
Oh, yes, they do. The infiltrators, informants. I posted that Alphabet Boys podcast. Did you get a chance to hear that? How they infiltrated the BLM?
I was familiar with it, but I'm going to have to check it again.
Oh, it's amazing. In Denver, Colorado, they took over there, and that's how the police stations were tore up, because part of it was the FBI informant who was a sex offender and a criminal who they hired at $5,000 a week or something, and his job was to set these people up to do violent things. So you are correct. And they are doing, that's COINTELPRO, and they're doing it now. And I did a show called COINTELPRO 2.0. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just definitely want to check out some of this stuff that you're talking about. But again, I think a lot of, they do have the dues that make you paranoid with a certain, energy field that they put you in. And so there is a lot, because there are infiltrators, there are fakers, there are, some of these things. And then there are people who legitimately have mental health issues, which I haven't met any TIs actually that I believe have mental health issues. But I mean, there are people that are not, they're whether you brain control or whatever it is, something is not, they're not thinking clearly.
Well, I moderated an HIV health group, and we had people that said they were HIV and they weren't, and one of them was Kenny in the garage. So I call it the Kenny in the garage syndrome. Some people think they're TIs, but they may not be, whether it's mental illness or not.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And for me, after you see the evidence of other people and some of these other things and how they do this, then for me, I'm an evidence person. So I was always like, somebody brought this to me quite a while ago, back in 2017, and said, do you think you're a targeted individual? And I just said, well, it's kind of, you kind of make up all these excuses and try to get to evidence your way out of it. And then the opposite happens. You realize
Correct.
that you are a targeted individual, whether you like it or not.
Exactly. So another topic we were talking about earlier is on dispensaries.com, they're talking about federal cannabis legalization. Do you think that's ever going to happen? And do we need it?
Cannabis, the taking it off the schedule?
Right.
I do think that, going along with my other theory about people in the Senate and different,
tobacco and liquor lobby, perhaps?
Yes, just if you go with what's legal, lobby. Okay, so lobby's legal, so you take money from these lobbyists. Like, you are essentially saying, okay, sorry, excuse me, I had a message that came in. But yes, the legal piece of this is that lobbying is not illegal. So all of this. And then Citizens United, which is the biggest PAC, I don't think, with the way that the Senate and the current setup of who is an incumbent, that it's going to be anytime soon, because there is more than one lobby that is keeping it illegal. Big Pharma is the big obvious one. People forget about the energy lobby. Oil and gas can be replaced by cannabis just on the hemp end, not anything
the hemp,
psychoactive.
you're right. That's correct. You got it. I forgot about that.
So all of the industrial uses for hemp is why oil and gas wants to keep it squashed, and people forget about them, and they're the biggest lobby in the world. And then going beyond that is the security system, like the security lobby, which is, of course, all of these contractors. And they're not legally allowed to deal in politics, but I can tell you how they do it on the back end through political action committees, and then create memberships, nonprofit membership groups, and it's just a way to get around some of these laws. Everything has a loophole. And so they are able to essentially lobby and keep it off. Adelson himself is one that's been pretty open about keeping out cannabis, because I believe he's involved with alcohol, is Sheldon Adelson's big anti-cannabis push.
Probably Seagram's. Seagram's is the big one. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so some of these lobbies that people forget about are really keeping it, and the law enforcement wants to keep their jobs too. I mean, there was the private prison industry that was doing all of the housing of cannabis political prisoners for the longest time. They're slowly moving away from, I know California and New Mexico have stopped with the for-profit prisons, which is a move that we need everywhere. These are the things that are keeping it illegal. So I don't think, because if we just take it off the schedule, every other law becomes moot. It will slide down from the schedule. Then the 280E doesn't apply because it's not a narcotic or a Schedule 1. Then interstate trafficking, all of these different things, all of these excessive cannabis laws like we have in California here, they don't need to be that excessive because it's not a Schedule 1 anymore. And so I personally think this stems down to shaking up the Senate, is my personal opinion on how we are going to get this moving forward. I don't see it happening with the current setup because there are not many moving from the Senate who are blocking it.
Gotcha. So have you heard about the new street drugs that are out, which would be reduced if we had easy access to marijuana at local stores? Of course, we talked about that in email. If Marlboro ended up making marijuana, they put addictive additives to it. But there's all these new drugs on the market, on the street. There's Trank, which is xylamine. There's P2P meth and ISO. So why hasn't the police, sheriff, and government squashed this drug phenomenon that's going on with the homeless community, or are they allowing the homeless to destroy themselves, part of a eugenics program? What's your take on that?
I think actually a lot of TIs are pushed into homelessness, and also a lot of people who have trauma, which is every one of us. That's the sort of key into those type of addictive drugs where you will kill yourself until, you'll take them until you die. And so they're finding that that's stemming from trauma. And I think that being a TI is traumatic. And it's like, if you don't realize what's going on, they could easily push you into this. I personally think that is poisoning TIs. It is purposeful.
It's mental health is what we lack. We have no mental health services in California, and then you get that care program that's going to hook you up with the DA to get you a house and health care and stuff as a homeless person. This is wild.
Yeah, I do think it's also I think the program, other than it's expensive to assassinate people. I think the point of the program is to bring people on the brink to commit suicide. And
they tell me to commit suicide in my V2K all the time. No, they don't say suicide. They say they're going to put me to sleep like an animal. They don't say animal. They say, we're going to put you to sleep.
Yep. It's things like that they, when you are on this list, this is their way to, if they can't get you to start taking drugs on your own, then they will poison you into it. If you can't, I do think that it is sort of you mentioned this with Alzheimer's, a slow kill. And again, how do we effectively stop this? Because everybody's torture is different. They know from your profile what is going to work the best on you. So your torture isn't necessarily the same as my torture or as other people's torture. So how do we effectively stop them from doing this to exposing the program really is what it comes down to, but how can we effectively organize together when they are harming people to the brink? Like some people are very, at this point in their torture, it completely consumes 24 hours a day of torture.
Correct, yeah, because I get the dreams at night and the V2K during the day.
Yeah, so how can we effectively, again, and they also do stuff from my end where they, like the technology fails. Like the text messages don't go through. The person doesn't receive the email. I'm spammed, everything I send goes to spam. So there's the easy technology stuff that they do with the hacking, and the removing evidence is what I've noticed has been happening with me, especially videos that I've taken of things that have been very clearly gang stalking. And it disappears in the 5 minutes from the time that I go to drive to home. It's gone. I had someone when I didn't do anything. Road rage happens. It's not always to TIs that road rage happens. But I had a man for zero reason at all follow me like 20 miles through a city, not LA here, where I was targeted, and for no reason at all, and would not let it go. Like, I don't know what I had done to set him off, but he was trying to brake check me, get in front of me. I would go to the other lane. He would get in the lane in front of me. I did this for 20 miles until eventually at a stoplight, ironically in front of the courthouse, got out of his vehicle, and I had to back my car up in reverse like as fast as I could, and I was still trying to film at the same time. That disappeared after the shock of like me trying to get my, he came at me with his arms out like he was trying to choke me, and that video disappeared strangely right after. They have control of your devices.
Yeah, well, the CIA put backdoors to everything in Silicon Valley. I worked in Silicon Valley, I know.
How do we, so again, I'm preaching to the choir here, trying to come up with solutions. I worked in, the government and that sort of piece, so I can tell you what makes the government move, and we do have a voice with our vote. That's why they want to suppress our vote.
Well, the best thing to do is harden your cell phones and computers. Go to Google and learn how to harden your devices, and that'll help you.
The word is harden your devices?
Yeah, Google harden cell phone and harden laptop or computer, yes. And there's so many videos, and we teach that to everybody in our call on how to prevent them from trying to get to your phone. It helps, but it doesn't stop it.
They've gotten 3 or 4 pieces of very important evidence, they've destroyed it. I found a tracking device on my vehicle and put it on video, and they had deleted 3 of the 4 videos before I could get back.
Were they on your device, the videos, or did you put them on the cloud?
I put them on, they were just on my device. This is right before, I didn't understand that they were doing this. They were destroying my evidence. But again, 3 or 4 times in it, now I know that they're doing it. But yeah, this was right the first time I found the tracking device. I started filming saying, what is this blue blinking light? I did save one video that I posted up to social media on TikTok, which has since been removed, strangely. Wonder how that happened.
That's why when I do a video like this one I'm going to upload tonight, I put it in 3 places, and You have to do that, yeah. You have to put it in many places. Even email it to a friend or someone, or put it in on YouTube, or send it out to people in an email group. That way that doesn't get erased, and ask people to save it for you. I've saved files for people in the same situation as you on my OneDrive cloud.
Yes, I agree. This definitely, because there are some, I mean, when you do that, they can't get them all. They don't get them all. And especially with devices that shut off, I've been, unplugging and shutting off my computers all the way. And it might have been an article that I received from you about the best computer is an off computer. The most safe computer is an off computer. And
yeah, it's safe for your nerves too.
Do you think, are they able to access when the computer is off?
Yes.
Okay, that's not what I wanted to hear.
But your cell phone, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I've definitely had some issues with the cell phone. I thought the computers were a little better. So, does hardening stop them from getting into an off computer?
Probably not.
And do they do that sort of like Bluetooth type of, or
they
how
use
do they?
Bluetooth, the Bluetooth iBeacon, and it's a low frequency, 1 hertz, and they can actually read off of your hard drive in your computer and its memory if it's got solid state memory, and it's connected to the power source, and it's connected to the internet. So, yeah, off devices can be affected.
I do think that and believe that this is, and everybody's been talking about this is our year, it's coming out. It's not, the evidence is not refutable any longer.
Especially with the Havana syndrome disclosures, and how they're lying and saying in the news of the CIA saying it doesn't exist, and then the other group of people say it does exist, and they're still paying out money to people. So it's weird. Like they're telling two stories.
It's sort of, and the government moves this way just from a sort of standard. If anyone followed because my ex-father-in-law had PTSD before PTSD existed as a condition that the veterans were able to pay on, sometimes with government, it's a matter of they have to create the category of disability kind of thing. That's what happened sort of with PTSD, but they denied everybody's PTSD forever until the evidence was not refutable any longer, and then they had to create a situation. So to me, I feel like there was no way the CIA wasn't going to do that, because what's going to happen is that they will have to pay all of us eventually. Those of us who survive this,
think they want to do that.
Pay us. No, they won't. They're gonna suppress it as long as they can, but that is their strategy at this point. They specifically, if you read the language on that, they didn't find that it was foreign adversaries, because it's not foreign. It's domestic adversaries here.
I agree. Jimmy Dore said that. He said, yeah, they probably have their own directed energy weapons. Of course they do, yes.
They definitely do. And
I think it's a silent war, for a quiet war, silent war. And this call is about the fourth industrial revolution, and that's what this technology is. So I agree. What did you think about the U.S. Marshal Service getting the ransomware hacking? Can you believe our government's being hacked now? Why wouldn't they have Lockheed protect them?
Is the hacking technology that good that are we to a point where everything is hackable?
Israel has ISO. Other countries, including the USA, have technology to hack, yeah.
That's also my fear, is some of these things. But then again, with doing research on other TIs who have gone off the grid and gone to locations that are very remote and stuff, and they're still being found.
Right, because this is like you're like a cell phone and you have a distinctive ID that they track you with, which is your bioresonance and your biorhythm and your chakras of your body.
I was told something today that I have not had any time to do research on, but you're probably the right person to ask this for us with your tech background. Do you know about the ASN numbers that are being tracked with IPs and other? They're sort of saying there's an ASN number that companies gang stalk with.
I haven't heard about that. That's an interesting subject. You can email me and I'll do some research on that and check it out. But I don't know what an ASN number is. I know ASN number in publishing, but not in that aspect.
Okay. Yeah, I have not done enough research to see if it's something that makes any difference, but it is hidden within the technology along with IP addresses, with the, to identify the computer and the person. And again, but I'll send you the information because I haven't had a chance to research it really, but did hear about it today.
Cool. So did you see the post I made about biocomputers, that they're actually making or considering making a computer that works on neurons and biological wet and warm aspects? Is that not wild? By the way, I'm going to change the page here. We're going down the topics with Shiloh Taylor. You can reach her at shilohtaylor.com, and we're switching to open mic, which we've been in open mic form. And back to we're talking about the FBI infiltrating. One of the things they do is called bad jacketing or snitch jacketing, where the FBI will do discredit, disrupt, and destroy groups that they don't find to be feasible to the American way, I guess. What are your comments on that, Shiloh?
I think that's a standard. I do think that's why it's very difficult to organize with as a TI. I do think, that's definitely what they've done with me. Just if you take and look at an easy way to look at it is my credit report. They have discredited me on my credit report where they have changed my name on one of the credit reports to a Muslim name. So my information doesn't match.
Oh my Lord, that's terrible.
They also have removed my credibility on two of my credit reports so that it doesn't show that I worked for the U.S. House of Representatives. It shows that I worked at Denny's, which I did 30-some years ago, which doesn't legally have any business being on a credit report 30-some years later, as we all know. Not ashamed of Denny's, but I was 17 years old.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, the credit report, you can write to Equifax and the other two and have that possibly changed. Or what they would do is they'd add your new information to it. But it takes a long time, and they're all messed up right now. It's hard to get anything done when you're a TI because everything gets screwed up. And yeah, they're messing with your credit, and that's to discredit you and keep you from getting credit in rentals and housing and cars and being able to have a normal life.
Yes, exactly. They want to keep me, homeless, other people homeless. I've also, discrediting me in the sense that they were able to somehow manage to get me evicted from, during no evictions with no just cause. And so without any cause at all. And so it's just really diabolical what they will do to discredit and disrupt people that they think are someone who's going to push for change, now I've become determined. Now that I understand what's going on, it's not going to work. Whatever I need to do to fight this, I'm going to. And I hope everyone else, is sort of coming to this realization that we have to fight back on this. And
we do, and we have 5 more minutes left of the interview. So, like we said earlier, write and contact your representatives. Right, number 1, do that this week. Even if you're in another country, do it.
And also push for the FOIAs, your Freedom of Information Act, to find out, try to get who put you on this list. The information that the FBI, CIA, and Department of Justice has on you, they have to give you the information. Likely it will be redacted the same way that it's just blacked out. Everything is blacked out, but you know it's there. And so then you can fight again to try to get further, push the FOIA further, and get the information that they've redacted, because they come up with some excuse that you can't have the information when it's just a way to cover up their crimes. And so
Gotcha.
Fight together and fight individually for your own case, because this is our time. We are going to break through this. There is a judge that's going to believe one of these cases.
That is really inspirational, and this video is going to go out to 1,100 people, so people will see it and will hear this message. It's very good. And if you're watching this on YouTube, BitChute, or archive.org, take some time out and check out your representative. Also, if you'd like to go to another call and it's the evening and you're watching this video on posterity, you can go to tievents.org to find out what conference call is going on every night. I'm interviewing Shiloh Taylor. This is TargetedWest.com, and this has been a fantastic interview. Shiloh, would you be interested in coming back again?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if anyone has any questions for me today or later, feel free to contact me at any time.
Yes, matter of fact, does anyone have any questions for Shiloh right now? We have just a couple more minutes, but a couple of questions. Come on in.
What is her contact address?
Info, INFO, at ShilohTaylor.com, ShilohTaylor.com.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Shiloh?
I have a couple questions.
Come on in.
Let's see. I have a few questions, so maybe I'll just ask them and then let you answer.
Okay.
Let's see. What did the tracking device on your car look like? Would you be able to write a letter that you could send out to us, that we could fill in the names of our reps and then sign it ourselves? That would help me and probably a lot of others so much if we could just bombard them with the same letter but fill in our personal info.
Absolutely. That's a great idea.
You seem like such a great speaker, and you know so much, and that would be wonderful, in my opinion. I was also going to say, would you please come on these calls again? It's so important for me to hear the information more than once. I picked so much up again the second time, and this is the first time I've heard you, but you sound just so smart about all this. Also,
thank you. I appreciate that. I agree with you. That is it is a great idea to have a similar letter. Let me put it together, and I will send it out to everyone, or have Chris send it out to his
I'll
list.
coordinate it and I'll send it out. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, I'll support it.
Oh, that's a great idea. Okay, thank you so much for saying yes to that.
And what did the tracking device? You want to know about what the tracking device looked like too?
Oh, the tracking device. The reason why I went out, I'd been out with a friend. We'd been out walking dogs. And I came back in the evening time after dark, and there was a blue light, like I could see it from a half a block away, blinking on the inside of my car, like underneath where the gas pedals are, sort of, but not it was slightly visible, but the blue light was very bright. And I said, what is that blinking in my car? And so I go over there and I start taking pictures and filming, and I'm trying to figure out what is it just part of the security system? But it's the reason why the blue light caught my attention is I had a friend who was being tracked by her ex-husband. And so just these devices can be easily purchased on Amazon and lots of different places, but her specific thing was it was a blue blinking light, and it was very bright. And so I did take a picture. It was hooked to the fuse box, and I took a video. I uploaded one to TikTok, which has disappeared. I have the video still, but they had deleted my first initial video when I walked up to the car and said, what is that light? What is this going on? That's gone. But it was like a little device with a blue blinking light that was hooked to my fuse box underneath the driver's side of the vehicle. And so the timeline on this,
on the outside of the body of the car?
No, it was on the inside of the vehicle, hooked to the fuse box. And I said, what is this? I took a picture. I sent it to my brother saying, hey, do you know what this could be? Is this part of a car? Is this normal? But the timeline on this, the reason why I know it was a tracking device is because that was on a Thursday. My brother came to town the next day. He had a rental. We went out in his car. I wasn't in my vehicle. He left Monday morning at 7 a.m., and I didn't have a chance to bring it I was going to bring it into Toyota, and this was my plan. So Monday morning was the car wreck. So they weren't going to give me any opportunity to take it in. They then towed it away, and the car does what it does at the tow yard, etc. So they weren't going to let me find out the tracking device. But yes, that's
an amazing
what I
story.
believe. Yeah, that's how far they will go to stop you from figuring out what they're doing and how they're doing it.
Very good. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now. Thank you for the questions, you guys. She was hoping you guys would be professional and empathetic, and you were, and I really appreciate it. If you're watching this on BitChute, YouTube, or archive.org, please go ahead and contact Shiloh Taylor at her email address, info@shilohtaylor.com, or you can go to her website, shilohtaylor.com. This is DJ Chris, and I'm signing off now. Thank you.